Hey puzzlers, this is Steve here with another video on how to solve some logic puzzles. This one's on a Chocona, also known as chocolate. The goal here is to shade in some cells such that all black cells form rectangles or squares independent of regions. Numbers indicate how many cells within their region must be shaded, and if a region doesn't contain a number, then any number of cells may be shaded. Lastly, the black rectangles or squares may not be orthogonally adjacent to one another. So what that means is blocks of shaded cells can diagonally touch one another, but they cannot be orthogonally next to one another. So you wouldn't be able to have a form of shaded cells like this because that's not going to be a rectangle or square. You'd obviously have to fill it in so it's nice and round like that. So that's it for the rules. What I'm going to go ahead and do is try to solve this puzzle for you guys, sharing some common tips and tricks along the way that'll hopefully make it easier for you to solve this type of puzzle yourself in the future. Now, I've pulled this particular puzzle from a recently published book of mine on Amazon. I'll post a link in the description below, along with a link for you to try it out yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Where I would start on this puzzle is any regions that you can automatically fill right away. And so for instance, this 4 in the bottom corner, there's only 4 cells, all 4 have to be shaded in. That's pretty simple. Now the number one tip I would say with these Chocona puzzles is that you cannot have any L-shaped shaded areas. So this obviously cannot stay as an L shape. We have to fill it in so that it's rectangular. And now if we think about this, what I try to do is I try to look to see what the minimum and maximum height and width of these rectangles can be. Now if we cut it short here so that it can't go any taller, it's not going to work because we're not going to be able to fill in this 5 region, right? There's only 2 cells left. So we're going to have to make this a little bit taller and fill in all 3 of those. And now we know we have to fill in these last ones as unshaded because we have 2 shaded cells down here plus those 3, that's the 5. So this 5 region is now complete. And then whenever you see a rectangle getting cut off like this where it can't go any higher, you have to round it off so that all the border is covered. Now this 0 region we can actually fill in as all unshaded cells. And then I would look to see some of these other easy regions like this 2 here, we know both are going to be shaded. There's a 2 region here that we know both is going to be shaded. Same here and there. And then there's some 0 regions, we can fill those in. So those are pretty easy. And then what I would look here is these 2 rectangles cannot connect, right? I wouldn't be able to connect them because then that would form an L-shaped area that cannot be rounded off to a rectangle. So that cannot be shaded in. And then this here can't be shaded because that would form an L-shaped area. So this has to be unshaded. That rectangle cannot go any further down. And then what this leaves us with is 3 cells left in a 2 clue. And with these, what I like to do is you know, obviously one of these is going to have to be left unshaded. And what we would check is if we connect it to this square here, right? If we chose these 2 to be shaded and this one unshaded, that's not going to work because it's going to break the 3 clue above it, right? We can't have any bending shaded areas. This would have to be filled in to be rectangular, and that would break this 3 clue because now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 cells shaded in that 3 region. So what that tells me is these 2 cannot be both shaded, or this here cannot be left unshaded is another way of looking at it. So this has to be shaded like that. And now what this tells me is this cell can't be shaded because then that would create an L-shaped area, or you know, these 2 rectangles cannot connect. So we mark it like that. Now if we ask ourselves, if this cell is shaded, this one would be unshaded, basically cutting off this square so that it cannot be any wider. And then we'd have it be like that. And this here cannot go up because it'd be an L-shaped region, so we'd have that unshaded. And this is not going to work out. This is going to break the 3 clue again, because you can never have an L-shaped region. And when you have a 2 by 2 like this, and 3 of those squares have to be shaded in, no matter how you do it, it's going to be a bent shape, or an L shape, or an elbow, whatever way you want to look at it. And that's not going to work, right? We can't have something like that, because that's not going to be squared off. And obviously, any which way you go, that's going to be the case. So what that tells me is, going back to this cannot be shaded in. This has to be unshaded, leaving this as the last cell to be shaded in that 2 region. Now we have to round off this rectangle, right? These have to be filled in. And we now know the exact dimensions of this rectangle. It cannot go any taller, right? We've already cut that off up here. So this has to be left unshaded, and it cannot go any wider because we've cut it off already here, right? So we have to fill those in. Now this one clue means that in this 2-celled region, there's only 1 cell left that needs to be shaded. And now we have to fill in this elbow, or this L shape, so that it's squared. And what I would do here then is look at this 6 region and how it corresponds with this square, or the rectangle, whatever term you want to use. Now this has got 7 cells in it, so 1 is going to have to be unshaded, but you can't leave more than 1 unshaded. So if we think about it, if we were to extend this square, it's going to break the 6th clue. So if we extend it 1, right, and shade in those 2, and then we stop, we'd have to, unshade those, and now we've broken it, right? Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells at most that could be shaded, which again is not going to work. We say, well, what if we extend it even further and then we cut it off there? Again, that's not going to work. And you can't extend it any further than that, because this rectangle cannot connect with this rectangle, because you can see these unshaded cells have cut down the size so that it can't be like that. That would just ruin the whole puzzle. So, and it can't go even further like this, because again, this 2 rectangle cannot touch with this square over here. So that's a long-winded way of just saying that this square cannot go any wider, because it can't reach into this 6-cell region. So we have to cut it off. And now we know that 1 unshaded cell and where it is in the 6. All that leaves us is all of these cells, which is all 6 of them, need to be shaded in. That's going to be super helpful, because now we can fill in this blob of shaded area as a square or a rectangle, right? We fill it in. And we know that it can't go any further left. We've already created the border, so we can fill in the rest of those. And it can't go any further right because of this 0 here, so we know that's filled in. And it cannot go any further down, otherwise it's going to run into this rectangle, right? If we go further down, it's going to have this awkward bend down here, so we know it can't go further down. And now this 1 region has 1 cell left. We know that needs to be shaded in. And this 4 cell, or this 4 clue in this region only has 1 shaded in. There's 3 cells left, so all 3 of those need to be shaded in to create the 4. And now this tall, skinny rectangle can't go further left, right? Because it would bend. That wouldn't work. So this has to be unshaded. And then we ask ourselves, this rectangle can't go any taller because it would break this 3 clue. This 3 already has 2 shaded cells, so we can't shade in those 2 above it, otherwise that'd be 4. So we know this rectangle is now complete. Now this 3 region, we've already filled in 2, there's only 1 cell left, so that needs to be filled in. Same thing with this 1, there's only 1 cell left, it needs to be shaded in. Now at this point, we're getting very close to the end of the puzzle, and we can use the strategy we've used earlier. So this is a 3-celled region with a 2 clue. So we can ask ourselves, can this be unshaded? If this is unshaded, or the framing that question is, can these two be shaded? If those two are shaded, you're not going to be able to solve this 3, because what will happen is you can fill it up like that, and then where do you put the third one? You're either going to break, you know, the rule where this rectangle bends, or, you know, this rectangle is going to bend, but you're just not going to be able to have these two be shaded. So if those two cannot be shaded, that means this can't be left unshaded. So that has to be shaded in. And then if you ask yourself, this can't be shaded to solve the 2, because then how are you going to solve the 3? Right? You can't have those 3 be shaded. Or those 3 be shaded, and you couldn't be able to, like, say, break it up like that. That's just not going to work. Your chocolate bar or rectangle is going to be ruined. So since this can't be shaded, it has to be unshaded. It leaves one cell left to solve the 2 clue. And now this 3, it's real simple. We know it's got to be these 3 up here, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to fit 3 shaded cells in there without ruining this shape. So those 3 are it. And now at this point, oh, I forgot. So this 1 region here, we already filled in the 1. So those other cells have to be unshaded. And now this square we know can't go any taller. We've created the perimeter already, so that's unshaded. And now we ask ourselves, in this 2, we know this can't be shaded, because otherwise the second one's going to have to be there or there, and it's just going to ruin the shape. We just know this rectangle has to extend over like that. That's unshaded, and that's created the perimeter. We know this rectangle can't go any further left, so that's unshaded there. And now if we think about this 1 here, we could do it a couple of ways. You know, we could fill the 5 like that, and then this would be broken, right? So we know it doesn't go that way, but we know we could fill it in this way. So that solves the 1, and it solves the 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that creates that border. Now this 1 cell has 1, or this 1 clue has 1 cell left to be shaded, and that's it. Now you'll see none of these chocolate bars touch one another orthogonally. Now you can have them connect diagonally, right? These 2 connect diagonally. That's okay. But that's it. We've solved the puzzle. Hopefully you guys liked it. I find these pretty interesting. They were a little tough at first because they are pretty unique. There's not a whole lot of puzzles like it. But if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And leave a comment. Let me know how long it took you guys to solve this puzzle. Anyways, hope you guys have a good night. Thanks.